I've been at Puppet now for about a year and a half, and this is actually my second event with the team, and I am thrilled actually that we are able to do this here in Amsterdam. I want to welcome you all first to joining us here, and those of you on the live stream. As Ryan mentioned, this is our third, and we're closing out here in Amsterdam. Particularly, I'm very happy to be back here. I used to live here a few years ago. And so when I heard that we were going to do this event in Amsterdam, I tentatively raised my hand and said, hey, if you guys need any help, let me know. I was not actually anticipating being up here on the stage, so I would appreciate everybody's participation in this event as we go through the couple of days here, or through the few hours here that we have together. As I mentioned, I actually used to live here, and at the time I was running services for a large infrastructure company, some of you may know. And my team and I had the pleasure of working with some of the most brilliant companies and interesting companies here in Europe, and with some really fascinating and talented engineers that were doing a lot of creative things back then. You know, it was amazing that it was only a few years ago we were really focused around how could we virtualize infrastructure. I mean, it seems simple today, but back then it actually really wasn't. And we were starting to talk about what applications should reside where, whether they be in your data center, whether they be in somebody's cloud, or some hybrid mix thereof. And to be honest, we were really just starting the conversation around moving to the cloud. And we were starting to talk around, how did we implement service catalogs, and how did we deliver services to the business so that we could better enable agility. And we hadn't really figured it out yet, and the technology was still really new. And so there was a lot of going back and forth, how are we going to get there? How are we going to be successful? Well, what I was most excited about being able to come back here for is the opportunity to really reconnect with a lot of those same customers and a lot of the same colleagues that I was working with back then. And in talking to so many of them this week, which I've had a great opportunity to catch up with people around, we think about multi-cloud, and that's just pretty standard today. We think about virtualization, which is table stakes. And now those same customers and colleagues are focused around application delivery. And really, it's the speed of application delivery that is most important to them these days. And it needs to be faster and more iterative. And we need to deliver actual business value right back to our customers in the business, and think about how are we continuously improving what we're doing so that our business's customers can actually go achieve what they're trying to do. So regardless of what kind of engineer you may be sitting here today, whether you are building applications, whether you are operating infrastructure, whether you're automating software delivery, your world around you right now is changing. There is so much happening. And in fact, you're probably living in two different worlds, right? You're living in a world of today where you've got traditional applications and infrastructure that you're trying to manage. And you're also at the same time moving towards containerized applications in the cloud. And how is that working? And the reality is you need a very simple and flexible way so that you can manage all of that together and scale the success that you've achieved in today's world into tomorrow's world. And you also need to be able to measure the progress that you're making so you can continuously improve. Your business is really counting on you to be able to unify how you think about delivering applications and infrastructure. It's no longer separate. You need to do that through the entire automation of software delivery. And it really needs to be seamless and transparent across everything that you're doing, across the entire estate. Most importantly, when I think about talking to customers today, this last bit about transparency really is key. How do they think about from development to production, carrying that same cycle with everything that they need? And thinking about how are we measuring and tracking everything that's going on in that entire space. So during the course of today, as you listen to our speakers and as you network with peers, I'd like you to step back, take a moment, and think about what is your role in driving that transformation. Because that's really what today is all about, giving you some more information and some more tools so that you can really scale your success. So like you, we at Puppet have actually been transforming. As I mentioned, I've been here for about a year and a half now, and we haven't stopped doing new things personally since I got here. We have, over the past year, opened up new offices in Singapore, in Tokyo, somewhat locally here in Timișoara, Romania. Now we have 9 global offices where we can connect on a much more close basis with our customers. We've acquired 2 new companies in the past 12 months as well. We acquired a company called Distelli and a company called Reflect. We've added great new technologies and amazing experts to the Puppet family. You're going to see some of the things that have come out from them today. We expanded from a single product company into a multi-product portfolio. And we brought new things like discovery, CI/CD, as well as data visualization to the space. Don't just take it from me. Chris Gardner, who's a Forrester analyst, just tweeted about this last night after watching and attending our event in San Francisco yesterday. So check out some of the cool things that folks are saying about everything we've been bringing to the market here. We have forged tighter relationships with partners, some of who are here locally, and we want to thank you for being here, as I want to echo what Ryan said. We really appreciate that. But also globally, with the likes of AWS, Cisco, Google, and Splunk. Later today, you're actually going to hear from Andreas at KPN, who's going to share with you a story about how they are using Puppet Enterprise and Splunk for a better together solution. I'd really encourage you to listen to him about how we're really taking that to market together. But as head of the customer success team here at Puppet, one of the most exciting pieces for me is really the hundreds of new customers that we have added to our portfolio over the past year. We get to work with each and every one of them on their automation journeys and how they're really scaling success. We have seen many examples where we've had great success in DevOps and automation transformation and success with our customers. I was talking to Ron Hurst last night. I'm sure he's out here somewhere. I was talking to Ron Hurst from Aegon last night. He's also presenting later today. And Ron was sharing a story, which he's going to share with you as well, which is around their DevOps transformation. And in his own words, right, they actually are the victims of their own success because they have been doing so much, and his team has really demonstrated how to be successful with automation, that what's happening now is other teams in his company are coming to him and saying, hey, can you help me be successful? Can you help me, be successful at what we're doing? So I really encourage you. Ron's going to come up later today and share with you that direct story, but also network with him and chat with him as you're outside. So just how do you think about scaling your success more broadly and more deeply? Last year, one of the things we did for those of you that either attended our event or have been following us since then is we talked about this thing around, percent automated. So how do you take where you are today, maybe from 20 or 30% automated to 70, 80, even 90% automated? How do you do that? Well, we believe that in order to scale your success more broadly and more deeply, there's 2 key things that you need to have in your world. One of which is around you need to make sure that DevOps practices frankly become institutionalized. They need to become the way that everyone works, not just one team, not just one department. Everyone needs to be focused around that. And secondly, the technologies that support the DevOps practices really need to be ready. They need to be integrated, they need to be flexible, and they need to give you insights, right? They need to give you insights into how to measure your progress. Little hint, stay attention later for some things around insights. But the good news is we believe that this world is now finally at a place where those two things are coming together, meaning that we've got DevOps practices that folks understand. We have now finally the technologies we believe that are coming together, and these things are finally aligning. So now is really the time to seize upon what's happening and seize that opportunity to drive your success. So we talked a little bit about, or you heard Ryan say, and if for anyone that's been following along, right, we have done a few things over the past year. We have introduced whole new product families into our world and new capabilities to support you on your DevOps and automation journey. Last year, this time, we launched Puppet Discovery, and Puppet Discovery, right, is able to, we launched it in order to help customers understand, to know what they have in their environments, right, to be able to prioritize what to automate next, and to take action on what you find. When I talk to most customers today who are using Puppet Discovery, right, one of the key use cases that they focus on is around, hey, I've just had an acquisition, whether that be I've had a business merger, or maybe I've just actually taken over some other projects from other teams in my company. I don't really know what's out there. How do I use that? This is exactly a key use case for why we have introduced Puppet Discovery. As I mentioned, we made Puppet Discovery GA available. It's GA in May of this past year, in May of this year. And as of yesterday, we've just released a new version 1.6, so that is now available. So for anybody who hasn't checked it out yet, please do so. We also upgraded Puppet Enterprise. Okay, I'm sure most everybody here in the room knows what Puppet Enterprise allows you to scale your automation. We've done a lot of updates to that. I'm not going to go into details here because we've got a whole team that is going to be showing you what's going new in the world with Puppet Enterprise. But really still focused on a couple of key things. How do you scale your automation, and how do you ensure that you're continuing to enforce compliance? Two key tenets around Puppet Enterprise that are always going to be there. We also announced Puppet Pipelines. Now, Puppet Pipelines came out of one of the companies that we acquired that I mentioned, Distelli. And Puppet Pipelines is really here to help you automate the software delivery across a variety of your cloud native, across containers, across your traditional applications as well, right? So it's helping you to bridge the gaps that have existed in your world up till now. But that's not all. We also launched Bolt. I don't know how many people, by show of hands, people are using Bolt, people know about Bolt. All right, that's great, awesome. So Bolt is an open source remote task runner. It allows you to easily get started with Puppet and allows you an easy on-ramp to automation. We have over 90,000 downloads of Bolt, and we have over 160 modules on the Forge that now contain tasks, or that now include tasks as part of them. So there's a lot going on there. You're going to see a little demo later around Bolt as well. So I think there's some exciting new things in there. In June of this year, we launched a third product based on the Pipelines technology called Continuous Delivery for Puppet Enterprise, which helps you automate the build, test, and deploy cycles for Puppet code. Again, another way that we're integrating everything together and becoming more of a multi-product portfolio company. But honestly, as much as I love the cool technologies that Puppet is delivering, I personally get much more excited about working with our customers and about helping them on their DevOps journey and their automation transformation that's going on. I get to talk to customers every day and hear what they're doing. And we've had some great examples of success, as I mentioned earlier. One of those is with British Telecom. Many of you know BT, as a network managed IT services company. And we've been working with British Telecom for a little while now, helping them to automate their estate and automate key processes. BT Securities is one of the groups in particular that we've been working with, and they're now able to think about repeatedly being able to enforce policy monitoring in a way that is automated. They've taken this and they've shown success within a particular group at BT. And they're able now to have conversations with their customers that aren't focused around the technical implementation details, but rather around the underlying security issues that they're trying to solve. And we consider this not only a great success because they have been able to automate, within BT Security, but what's also happening is now we've got other groups within BT that are coming to them saying, show me how you did that. How can I actually think about replicating in my other projects what you guys have been able to do? By working with the likes of British Telecom, many of you here in the audience, and our other customers around the world, we've been able to gather a lot of insights. But also, we run the world's longest standing and most comprehensive DevOps research available. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we launched our 7th annual State of DevOps report. I don't know how many of you guys have downloaded it yet. Please go do so. Feel free if you need any help doing that, just let us know. Ask a techie, they can probably help you. But through all of that research, right, we have a ton of information that we gather. We've had over 30,000 professionals over the years respond to that survey. And it gives us a lot of great insight and frankly, we think a unique vantage point on the industry. And what it tells us this year in particular, one of the things that we really focused on is how wide scale is actually DevOps in customers' organizations. And what we really find is that most of the customers are in the middle, not surprising, right? They've been able to adopt DevOps in some of their teams, in maybe one department, but they haven't really been able to scale that across multiple teams and multiple departments. I think many people can say we recognize how to do that within one group, right? It's pretty easy. It's not easy, I should say, but it is well known. How do you take DevOps practices and build that up in a single team? But what's really difficult, and is a lot harder, is actually how do you scale those best practices across the entire organization? Getting this right is going to be critical to your business, right? Getting this right is actually going to be what's going to move you out of the middle of the pack, is figuring out how do you actually scale what you're doing within a single team across multiple teams. It's going to be the way that you're going to break away from the middle of the pack. And one of the key things around this is benchmarking, figuring out where you are today, being able to measure that, and then continuously looking at that going forward and charting your progress. One of the things we at Puppet are doing to help you bridge the gaps between teams and between technologies is with our product portfolio. Right? Puppet was built on the idea that if you could treat infrastructure and describe infrastructure as code, you could manage it just like software. It helped catalyze the DevOps market and the DevOps movement and brought together the worlds of infrastructure and applications. Why is this important? It's important because we believe that the worlds of applications and infrastructure are converging, and that's happening at a tremendously fast pace. We've been talking about software eating the world for a number of years. It's certainly true in the infrastructure space, where now as we're able to think about infrastructure like code and treat it like software, it's easier to blend those practices. It's easier to treat and manage everything just like software. But it's really only been very recently that we've thought about the entire stack being programmable as something we can do that with. We think that now we're at that inflection point where it's possible to start doing just that. And everything is being treated just like software. But if this weren't all complicated enough, most of the customers that I talk to today are actually still living in both worlds. They can't just move into the future world where everything is treated like software. They actually have to worry about today's world still, where you've got traditionally managed infrastructure and applications, but yet you're trying to move into the containerized world and the cloud worlds. The DevOps practices that are kind of nice to have in today's world are actually required to be successful in tomorrow's world. For example, continuous integration and continuous delivery are mandatory, right, if you're thinking about delivering containerized applications. In cloud-native architecture, everything is really just managed like software. Organizations like yours, you know, and you all know that you have to actually adopt these practices and you have to get this right. And it isn't going to happen overnight, but we do believe that it's going to be happening faster than ever. And it's probably going to happen at a pace which is much faster than we've seen other transformations and other changes that we've experienced in this industry. For example, if it took virtualization a decade to become really standard, we believe that in probably half that time, maybe even less, right, cloud native is going to become the default way to build, deploy, and run applications and infrastructure. The changes associated with adopting cloud-native technologies and workflows are probably going to be even more impactful than virtualization was. It's the biggest change that we're all likely to see here in our careers. We need to be ready to make that change together. This is a quote from actually locally here, or locally as we get here in Amsterdam. But what it's really saying is the following, that right, there have been periods of time and things that have happened and transformations and changes that have happened, new technologies that have come out in our careers. And usually you see one of two things. You see, for example, where we as practitioners are ready to make a change, but the technology isn't there to support us. Or we see there's some cool new technologies that have come out, but us and our organizations haven't quite been ready to make that shift yet. Well, now we're finally seeing that it's all coming together. And everything is really ready to be aligned for the first time that we have seen in this space. There's no better time, I think, to be you or us as we're thinking about our automation and scaling that and being successful for our companies. The question is, are you going to be ready? And are we going to be ready to help you support that? We think we are ready. We think we're here, we're ready, we've got the products, we've got the technologies, we've got the people and the expertise to help you be ready. We have a proven track record of helping companies like yours and others around the world, right? We've done this when people have moved from virtualization into the cloud, DevOps practices, and much, much more. With everything becoming software, abstraction and automation are even more critical than ever, which is what Puppet is all about. So just when you think everything has gotten to a point where we're finally starting to settle down, we're finally starting to understand what's really happening in the market, we've seen everything shift over the past few years. But the good news is, if you guys are here today, and you are, so thank you for that, and those of you that are on live stream, but you're already ahead of the pack. You want to be here, you want to learn, you want to see what's next. You have a thirst for learning and for evolving and transforming. And with our technologies, we think we're better positioned to help you adapt to that change. So how exactly are we going to do that? I'm going to bring up here Matt Waxman. He's going to come up next, and he's going to take you through our new product portfolio. We're going to do a bunch of demos, and that's what you guys have been waiting for. So with that, I'm going to ask Matt Waxman to come up